I think Tal also had a bit, but I think Bala is, Bala is here, okay. Is Joseph here as well?
Yeah, Joseph. Yeah, that was also, I was looking for him. I don't think
he just joined.
He joined.
Just joined. Okay. All right. So this is SIG automation meeting for whatever day it is today, November 1st. Go ahead, Wim.
Yeah, so the first issue is related to this. So we decided to make this common RAN pieces, right? So the config CRDs. So they defined a generic config.nephew. I suggested to make it specific to the content that we are suggesting. So my suggestion was call it 3gpp.config.nephew, right? .org as a group.
Yep.
And so there are some concerns with the fact that we use 3GPP, but I think it's best describing what we want to do. I don't see an issue with it because I don't think 3GPP is trademarked or something like that. It's a trademark, but I don't think the name as such matters so much. But because the other alternatives that I was thinking about, unless someone has another proposal, is to use wireless or mobile, but they all conflict with Wi-Fi, in my view. So I think 3GPP or the other alternative is 5G or 6G or something. You can do XG or something, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean you could say mobile, but yeah.
But mobile is also wireless, right? It's also Wi-Fi, and there is like, and then you have these low, what is it? Low PAM or yeah. So there's other wireless technology that has nothing to do with this. That use completely different namings.
Cellular is one name, but
yeah, LoRa. Yeah, correct. Yeah, LoRa. Yeah.
So I guess personally, I think everybody will understand it if we see 3GPP, and if we don't, people won't understand it. But if we think that there's a potential legal issue, we should run it by LFN and let them tell us what we can use.
So to me, I mean, two issues. Sorry, Joseph, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can finish.
Okay. So to me, I mean, the parameters are inspired by 3GPP, of course. But if we make the group, I mean, this is just from as an end user perspective. I was thinking if I look at this group as 3GPP something, I have somehow start associating this with some of the specifications of 3GPP itself. So we may deviate also over a period of time, and also all the 3GPP models are versioned, and then we are also not saying which version this belongs to. So
it's inspired by, not actually like.
Yeah, that's where my thing is. Are we conveying the wrong message by using that word 3GPP? I mean, also it's a RAN model. 3GPP also has a RAN, obviously has RAN models. So should we say in the comment or somewhere that it's inspired by them and use something very generic like a RAN, FEO, CRD, something like that, RAN group, instead of using a 3GPP. So that's
not just RAN, right? So that's the thing, is that they're not just RAN. What's the hand ordering? Who's next? Joseph, I think.
Joseph, Ravi, Tal, I think.
Yeah, so I had a concern about using the 3GPP term because one thing I think I might not be able to use it. So I've raised the CRD for RAN, but as a policy, we cannot use it, or I have to take internal approvals further, which might delay. So that's one thing. And also generally to use the 3GPP term, it might give the wrong impression that we're using the 3GPP Yang models. It might give an impression to others. So that's one thing. And it might lead to terms of use of the Yang models, which we need to go by, at least like what John said, by LFN, confirm, clear that we don't have issues. If there is no issues, then it's okay. I think we can use. But I think I don't know how long that would take, and for R2, if we can finish it. So that's one thing. And the alternate is, in case we decide to use the 3GPP term, then maybe I can close my PR. Somebody else can do it. That's also okay. And other alternative is we just use the structures directly in the code. We wait for a proper understanding of how to use it, and maybe in R3 we can start using it. These are some options that I thought. Yeah, that's all from my side.
So yeah, I think my next. I think Bala kind of I think summarized it well, because if you're talking about 3GPP and we are talking about RAN, then we have to be very clear about what release of 3GPP we are talking about. 5G NR goes from release 15, release 18 probably is going to 6G and all now, and also because I just had a very kind of a brief view of all the physical layer parameters. It's just a few set of parameters. If you just take the entire kind of what 5G NR offers in terms of beam management and dual connectivity or carrier aggregate, a lot of features are there. I mean, so I think we're just scoping right now just in the context of what OA has implemented. Unless those parameters have specific, you're actually inheriting certain data models from 3GPP, and we could say this is a specification that we're referring to. This might lead to a lot of confusion. Though at a high level it's fine, we understand it, but I think it might down the road, many people who are coming on 3GPP might lead to say, hey, what features of 5G NR are you talking about here, right? So and that basically would lead to a specific data model that's been defined in 3GPP.
So do you have an alternative, Ravi?
No, I say keep it generic. I think what Joseph was saying, RAN, or no, if it's 5G specific, just keep it 5G. Or if it's LTE, just keep it LTE. If it's CUCP, I would say just keep it CUCP, DU, and CUP. Those things are fine. But if you put 3GPP, then it is it's a very similar thing that okay, we have something that you put IETF, then which RFC of IETF are you talking about? Right?
Yeah, but the thing is that the parameters we are specifying are not limited to the RAN, right? So it's like PLMN ID and stuff like that. They are used not just for RAN. So it's like MCC, MNC. These are generic terms that they are not even tied to a 3GPP release.
I would say these are all terminologies defined in 3GPP, right?
Yes, that's why I was suggesting to use 3GPP because of the fact that they are all there and they are not specific to RAN or something like that. They are across the board.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say I would suggest it keep it more kind of say OAI dot 3GPP or something, but don't call it 3GPP dot something. So it is OAI is implemented specifically focusing on OAI's implementation.
This isn't for OAI.
No. It's not. It's for anything basically.
Any 5G or 4G, right?
Yes.
Anywhere.
I mean, these parameters at the end of the day are not even limited to an XG, so they were there in 2G, by the way.
So maybe we just call it XG-wireless or something to differentiate between Wi-Fi and this.
Yeah, we can do something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tal raised his hand as well. He shared some link as well, I think. So that might be
sure. Yeah, I'll make 2 points, and I'm also changing my mind a bit because of this discussion. I pointed out the legal issues I don't think are significant. If we do want to make it 3GPP, there's a way to do it. And actually, this is a general thing. We might open another issue for this. We do need notice files. Even the Kubernetes with name that we're using is a trademark. Even K8s is trademarked by CNCF. So in all my projects, I just put a notice, and that's the way to handle it correctly. Right, so there's a notice file, and you can click on my example there and see how I do it. It's very trivial, and I just read the 3GPP terms of use. I put a link there, and it's the same. They just ask you to, you're allowed to use other people's trademark, right? Unless you're selling something, right? But you need to just note who owns that trademark. That's okay, right? You're allowed to use words legally. But I thought, from this discussion, it's clear to me that, I agree that if we're putting the word 3GPP, there's going to set expectations for people that we're following a specific spec. Oh, we're not. right? We're using terminology and entities from this spec. And this is why I think, again, the modeling work group in SIG 1 could be important, where we really think about all our models and entities and where they come from, right? Because everything is opinionated. 3GPP has an opinionated view of what the entities are. Etsy, Mano has its own set of entities. ORAN has its own set of entities. So I think if we're going to start having a name of oran.nefio.org, etc., we're already using, like, we're saying we're going to be using the entities and components from that world, right? From that opinionated world. So I'm not really sure what to do here. I think it has to be very related to the content. So if we're using something like PLMN, well, where does that come from, right? What specific, is it specific to 5G? Yeah.
No, it's 3GPP. Basically, it's a term that was started there, basically.
Coined there, yeah. So, but it's not, 3GPP is a huge set of standards, right? So this is a specific sub area.
So
right.
We use a subset of, so the thing is, we use a subset of them, right? So that's the issue, is that I do agree that but that's true for anything, right? So that's why for me, the fact that it's 3GPP, let's say config-nefio.org should give the context that it's Nefio, and we can basically make a notice into the file to say, okay, we are using a subset of parameters defined in 3GPP or something like that, right?
Yeah,
in the API spec.
I think there's more work to be done here. As John and I noted before, this could be broken down into lots of different kinds. So PLMN can be its own first kind. So
Yes.
let's say we have ran.nefio.org. And under that API, there can be lots of different kinds that come from different opinionated parts of the RAN world, right? So there can be things coming from 3G. We don't have to necessarily say what the source is.
We should not. So that's the problem, I think, Tal, is that what you see is that if you define a RAN-specific CR, you need it in the core, right? So that's why, that's the thing. If you look to what Sagar did, right, he has indeed, PLMN is actually the kind.
Okay,
and it will be used for both RAN and core. For anything that is using that term will be able to use it. And my view is to make it, let's say, very specific or independent, so that you can build these building blocks and we stitch them together in the way we consume them without having one big specification.
By the way, I don't especially like the NF config here. I think that's the element that I would remove. Everything we do is config, right? So, but I would like to suggest maybe this on moving forward. So there is a modeling work group where we can get input from telcos as well, and not just the people here. I would suggest moving that discussion there. I think for now, I would suggest for us, for this PR, maybe finding something neutral that's not 3GPP. And, it can evolve in the future when we look at this as a group and what to do with all the other standards bodies that we're kind of working with.
The only thing my only concern, sorry to interrupt, is that it will replicate through all the packages, right? So you'll see this appear all over the place. Okay, so I'm just warning, if you change it later on, I'm just warning. I'm not saying that we cannot do it. It will have a lot of files have to be updated.
That's true, but I expect our models to continue to evolve, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
They're all going to be V1 Alpha 1 anyway at this point, so they're all going to change.
But the grouping doesn't change so much, right? So
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
One suggestion would be, why don't you call it like ran.com, and then if it's technology specific, call it ran.lt or ran.5GNR. I mean,
but it's not even RAN specific, Ravi, at the moment. So all the stuff that we are doing is not even specific to RAN.
Yeah, I mean, it's a I understand it's for the mobile operator. It cuts across the core and the RAN. You're talking in that sense. So, but you identify the entire specification, core and the RAN, as LTE or 5G or 5GNR, right?
No, that's why 3GPP defines that, right? So 3GPP is basically it's the thing that does that.
Here's another. I'm brainstorming here, but another thought is that we can add the name to the kind, so it can be 3GPP PLMN, which might have 3GPP specific things, and then there might be another PLMN, say, for another aspect of it. So it might be the same API group, but we can change maybe the kind names according to if some of them are more opinionated in some specific, right? Because, for example, let's take PLMN. It's used, you know, it's
only
mobile, right?
3GPP.
So
it's only a 3GPP term. It's not used in Wi-Fi. It's not used in LoRa. It's not used anywhere. It's very specific to 3GPP.
Yeah. So what? How would
Actually
it look
everything
if it was in the kind name?
everything that we are using is specific to 3GPP. By the way, that's why I suggested 3GPP as a name, because
Yeah.
the UPF is also only used there. SMF, AMF, and then the next generation is. That's why I don't like it to be, for example, XG either, because what you see is that every release they change the terms, and sometimes they do. Like PLMN hasn't changed, by the way, so that's the good part.
No,
But
the
they
reason
have-
why they change the name is because they introduce new services and new functionality. So that becomes an entirely different set of information data model. So what you
Sure.
from
But
yeah,
what
so
I'm
LTE
trying to say is that
yeah.
but
So-
what I'm trying to say is that the things that we are using right now, like tracking area and stuff like that, they haven't changed.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
of course.
can
Yeah,
actually put
there are
the
a lot of
version name.
they are just releases, right? I mean, they just built on each other. They're backward compatible in every way. So
Right. So what we can do is actually go a full-blown alignment with 3GPP and call it 3GPP v6, right, or something like that. So we can actually try to be very conforming.
Or you can call it 3GPP inspired or something like that. That you can also do, right? Then that's for me the most generic. Or call it 3GPP nephew.
Yeah,
nephew.
and then you also didn't like mobile network, right, Wim? You didn't like that one. That idea.
See, mobile for me, I mean, I try to be prescriptive. Mobile, you will have conflict with Wi-Fi at some point, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll say even generally, I mean, look at the name 3GPP themselves. It's already an outdated name. It's 3G in it, and they're already doing 5G. So their own branding also had that same problem, right? Because the organization was created during the 3G times, and it's already...
The only other thing that I was just thinking about is they have this thing called NGMA, right? Which is basically the user stories about 3GPP. So that's a network, but I don't know.
is it NGMN you're talking about?
NGMN, yeah, NGMN. Sorry, yeah.
NGMN, yeah.
That is a consortium of operators. Yeah, they just come up with use case scenarios.
Right.
The whole slicing was from NGMN.
Yeah, different. So
the question is, are they only focused on 3GPP related services? Because maybe we can use those type of.
They are mostly focused on cellular services. Like 3GPP is only one right now. IEEE tried to do WiMAX, but 3GPP all the way, right? So everything they define is, I mean, even the 6G, they have some cloud manifest documents and stuff. So that's all targeted to 3GPP. So you have IMT, ITU, IMT, and NGMN setting requirements for 3GPP.
So what should we do?
How about cellular? So it won't conflict with Wi-Fi.
Cellular.
Yeah, that's also
the
very
short-term
broad.
objective is, and there are two things, right? One is we need to get this naming. The second thing is obviously Joseph expressed the desire that if it is 3GPP, he cannot check in this PR. It has to be done by someone else. So we also need to.
Why is that? Why is that?
I also didn't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are some concerns from my organizations in using term 3GPP. As of now, unless it's very clear from LFN that it can be used, I think that's the point that's coming from my organization. So, or we'll have to do the full approval process here. It might take time. That's what was my concern. But I think it's okay. I think if somebody else can raise the PR, that's also fine. It's not a problem for me.
So yeah, I'm changing my mind from before. I think actually not putting 3GPP would be better right now, because I think if we put 3GPP in the name, it's starting a trend, and then we'll have ORAN.nefio. You know, we're going to have various ETSI.
I would not do that.
We might have different standards bodies starting to create.
So then why don't we call it XG or something like that? I don't like it.
No, you don't want to call XG because that'll lead to more. I would say if you want to, because within OAI, I see there are two implementations. One is a G node B and one is a E node B. Right? You have LT and 5G flavor. If you want to qualify it, I would say 3GPP dot LT, 3GPP dot common, or 3GPP dot
No,
5GNR or something.
No,
Ravi, we don't want to use the 3GPP.
No.
We're trying to avoid
no,
that.
no, no.
Oh, you don't want to use 3GPP. Okay. Then,
Yeah, basically, we are trying to avoid that name.
Then put RAN.
Until somebody goes
RAN.com
LFN
and-
No,
lawyers
run is
and get some legal opinion.
we need to make a generic Ravi, right? So it's not run. I'm not.
It's just mobile
run
or
is-
cellular or.
Yeah, it should be something like that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think cellular is so bad. It's
Yeah, let's use cellular, right? Why not? I mean,
and again, we can change it in the future, and we're expecting changes, as John pointed out. Yeah, some of these things we do are placeholders, right? So again, I think the SIG1 work group that will look at this more generally might be able to write some guidelines on how to handle these things. This is one of the challenges. How do we deal with standards and the legal issues and everything? But yeah, I just don't want to block the current PR. I think it's
yeah. But let's use cellular then, right? And then we can continue, and then let's bring it up to the model to the modeling stuff. Will you bring it up, Tal, to the modeling?
yes, that could be
Or-
one of our first issues, really, because it's
Yeah,
on the
and
table right now.
meanwhile, we can also, I can also just, so John, if I want to check with the Elephant Legal, can we just offload it to Kenny? Can you check it for us?
Yeah, I would just run it by Kenny. He'll pull in legal as
Okay,
needed.
got it. Okay.
So it's
Well-
3gp.config.nephew.org. Is that what we want to use?
No, I think we said cellular dot.
Oh, yeah, but it will be cellular.config.nephew.org.
So that's what we are going to use now, but in general, this has
Do we need
initiated.
config in there? Like I kind of agree that seems redundant, but
So why do we need config there?
Because we always, so we decided, so we have sometimes, right, what we did so far, okay,
Right.
is that we have, we split it between config and requirements. So sometimes we have CR that are purely requirements to get something done, and we have a distinct set of CRDs for that.
we have the req.nephew.org. You're saying.
Right.
Yes, and
But the problem with config is kind of the same problem we've discussing, that so we have so many. I mean, netconf is also config, right?
yeah, but we have today, we already have like network.config. We have a few in there that are configuration related.
So why don't you just stick with the pattern we've established, Tal, and then you can bring it into the modeling group to
Sure,
say,
sure,
hey, let's
sure.
rationalize all of our groups at the same time.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
And why did we want to use RAN? Because RAN was already used, you said?
No, because RAND, it's not just RAND.
It's so it's both. So PLMN is core and
Oh,
RAN,
okay. You mean to
Ravi.
say some RAN as in RAN and the core. Okay. So the whole infrastructure. Okay, got it. Okay.
Vish's hand is up too.
Yeah, actually, I know Wim said that he's going to leave in 30 minutes. He's got 3 minutes. So I wanted to bring up one other question related to which we have in the Slack discussion, unrelated to this about 3GPP and stuff. So Wim, we are not able to run unit tests, a couple of us, when do the make unit from the Nephew thing. I know you probably thought it should be working and you actually put in Istvan.
Yeah.
So anything to help
Yeah,
integrate that. So I know you
Yeah, Istvan set this whole thing up, by the way, so I didn't do it, but it doesn't work for me either. So I was hoping that we can help.
So,
And so it doesn't work for me either. Yeah,
okay.
at the moment. I don't know what changed. But I'll ping Isti again to see whether he can have a look at it.
Cool. Thank you.
But
Because
we
I know
have
you-
one more important one. We have another important topic to discuss, by the way.
Yeah.
So as part of the same work, okay, so with the refactoring of the CRDs, so So PLMN typically also includes DNN, okay? So at the moment, DNN has been used in R1, but was used as part of NF deployment. So technically, the best thing is to consume DNN via PLMN instead of having it in NF deploy. But this, I think we all agree that that's the best solution. But the issue is that it's a lot of things that has to change to accommodate for it. It's not impossible. The problem is, do we have people to make this happen? I listed in the PR all the things that has to change. I don't know whether you still have it open, John. I listed it this morning.
Is this same PR?
I thought so, yeah. At the bottom, at the complete end, I put it in this morning, I think. Yeah.
Are you seeing the screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's where it is. So this is all the things that has to happen.
Quickly.
Yes. So the question here is, do we try to go for it? My problem is that I'm the next 2 weeks like completely traveling.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. KubeCon's next week.
yeah, and then I'm still in the US.
If there's anybody on the call, somebody ping me on DM saying they're interested in contributing. So I'm not going to name names unless they want to volunteer. But that would be a way. This could be a good introduction for, like, yes, you get deep into the models, but you'd have a lot of guidance and you'd get to see different pieces of the functionality. So if anybody's interested in jumping into this, the idea here is that basically right now our model, we took a shortcut in R1 modeling. We want to make that less of a shortcut in R2 modeling, and that requires changes to the existing code base. So shifting this field from one resource to another, and then populating it in the old resource based on the new resource.
So one question I wanted to ask before we offer John. So Wim, is it different? Is it an additional work? Sorry, I had to just step away for 3 minutes because of the heater issue.
Yeah.
That's being fixed. So is this in addition to the abstraction that we are creating, Wim, or is it a part of?
So this is addition. Yeah. So I need to drop actually, guys. But yeah, so this is additional work. And it doesn't, so they have to do them all together. That doesn't make sense to do only one. You have to do them all.
Right. This is additional work. So considering the dates, I'm kind of, and the list and the fact that the Rockstar is going to be away for next 2 weeks. That's what Wim said. So I'm kind of skeptical to bring this into the release, John.
That's fine. That's
because after the next 2 weeks, the Thanksgiving weekend is coming. I think we are gonna lose that week.
So then we should put this in just create an issue and schedule it for R3 and say this is tech debt. We have to.
Yeah. So before that, Wim, would you be okay with that assessment?
Yes, but we need to do a hack probably then for R2, right? Which is fine. So we have to do a hack a little bit, but okay, it's better that, because otherwise I agree that it's very challenging. I think given the time window.
Yeah,
I do agree that but I think we had to raise it, right? So we can do both ways, but I was assuming that this was going to be the decision. So we have to do a little bit of a hack, and then I'll talk to Sagar how to do it with the hack, and then we keep it as is. Yeah.
Is it not banned, the word hack? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Tech debt.
Sorry, I need to drop now.
Yeah, thanks. Wim.
Okay, thanks, Wim. See you later.
Yes.
Okay, so that I think, Vish, you already brought up your issue, so I think that actually exhausts the official agenda. I guess what I'd like to do is, if people still have time, at least have a quick call discussion, at least, of whether there are other blockers. Bala, it looked like I saw a Slack message about some issues. I have not had a
Yes,
chance
I've,
to.
I've been sending messages. General comment is, I think there are some PRs that requires rebase. I think some of them were approved, some of them were requires rebase. Please take a look at your PRs if the rebase is needed. I happened to put some of the comments last night.
Yeah, I did have a problem. Like there was one where normally you can click on something in GitHub and it'll rebase it for you, but because of the DCO, maybe, and since I'm not the PR author, it was not working. And so I think it has to be manually rebased.
Yeah, I think that is that. Even I was trying to resolve the conversation which I asked, and Sagar replied, I wanted to set it as resolved, and GitHub was not liking it. I don't know why. It was my
Weird.
question. Only the PR author can resolve the conversation. I'm not sure whether they changed it.
That shouldn't be the case. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Usually
so-
you want it, it's the person who asks it that resolves it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are quite a few PRs. Some of them were approved, some of them requires a rebase. Some of them, I think the big PR, I think we discussed today, that is going to be that would unblock quite a few of work, I would assume. And John, the other update I wanted to give you, now before we can go over the board or whatever. But we unblocked Rado. He was blocked on a few items. On the release meetings we unblocked him, and he's good to go. I think most of the items that were targeted for the release in terms of either the process improvements or the experimental repo will be coming through this week or next week.
Okay, excellent. Is there value in going through the board? Or I don't want to take people's time if there's not.
But maybe let's see here. Maybe if you take Vish's comment or Vish's point about the unit tests, and then just have.
Well, I thought he raised that. He raised that
Yeah,
with
so-
Wim, and Wim said we need to talk to me, or we need to just
Okay.
figure it out. That was my understanding.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, well, just on that is some of us have been working on just unit testing and mocking and stuff, and we maybe it's something we take tomorrow, John. Is some of us who are less experienced than others in Go, for example, which just like to see if we're going the right way, you know.
Okay, sure.
I think Vish, you were suggesting mockery. I did a bit of, I just brought up one small PR there with just doing a kind of manual mock, and it's just also the structure of some of the code seems to be a little bit awkward to do mocks for, for unit tests. So it'd be just good to get kind of a level on that. Maybe we could take 10 or 15 minutes to talk about that tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely talk about that. I mean, I think there's different philosophies in the Go world around that, and
yeah, but there is not just in Go,
it's like
depends
VI
what you
Emacs war. So
yeah, I mean, you have to get coverage, but I mean, mocking, I always took unit testing with a pinch of salt, but at the same time, if you see kind of, it has some value. Let's put it like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the unit tests are good. Well, we can talk about it tomorrow. I did want to raise a couple other things. One is
one more thing, John. When Liam spoke about, I realized also one other type of PRs. Those PRs had LGTM, but they had commits came after LGTM, so the LGTM has been invalidated. So Liam, I think your PR is one of them as well. I don't know whether it's got much today. Last night was the status like that. So if any of your PRs fall into that category, please take a look and just ping in the Slack. Then we can do one more LGTM on that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that was the one. That was just a documentation one on the minimum install. Yeah, I think that one should be. I think most of all the comments are cleared now. So
yeah, but the thing is, it had an LGTM. Then there was a commit after LGTM, so it requires an LGTM, one more LGTM now. That's the point I was trying to put.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, please go ahead, John.
Yeah, just some administrative things. One is KubeCon is next week. Some of us are going to be there. I'll put it here. I put a link, a page on the wiki where you can put your information, and there is a room that Google has that I could book potentially if we want to get half an hour together, or we can just find a space and chat. Yeah, So, and then the elections. So there's elections for the SIG leadership. Let me find that on the wiki here. And so far, I think that we have to put anybody who is interested in that needs to put themselves up. I think.
Yeah, we have 2 more days. It was extended by the TSC.
So I have decided not to do the chair role again this year. So just FYI.
But you're going to stay, right? You're not going to be gone from the project.
I do not have any plans to go anywhere. I'd like to participate in what I'd really like to do, and we can discuss this sort of after the election so that it's sort of done through correct processes. But what I'd like to do is see us, in our one time frame, we had a subgroups within the SIG, and we had a package management subgroup and a package specialization one. Like, I'd like to maybe see us have some sort of platform layer subgroup that I could lead that would be focused on things like the package revision, package variant set, some of that infrastructure pieces, rather than on everything. So especially as now we move more and more into modeling the 3GPP and the telco type of things, that I'm happy to provide guidance from the point of view of Kubernetes API development, but I don't have the background really to get into the details of those things. So that's my thinking right now.
So I'll let it know too that I haven't put my name in yet, but I will be submitting myself as for the role. So we have currently Wim on the list, and I'll add myself soon today.
Okay, now Tal, I was going to add that. Now, since you're going to be there, I'm going to not add my name.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's elections. Everybody is free to throw their hat in the ring. But
oh man, you're too popular. I can't stand against you. Just kidding.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, John's point is important. I think the way I see, so R1 and R2, things have evolved quite a bit in the community. We've really expanded. R1 was so focused on, let's deliver something that works, right? Things have really expanded now. SIG1 is talking about, we have how many 5 work groups there? We have task forces here. I think the role of the chair too is changing as well to accommodate that. We have many more meetings per week for task forces. I think the idea of the tech leads for each task force is becoming much more important. So the work of the chair is being more delegated, I think, to these. So the chairs end up being, coordinators, I think, of all this effort and making sure that they're unified in a certain vision, etc. So to John's point, I think we don't have, so the TSC charter lets us create our own sub-projects, right? That's how they call it. And we have complete freedom to decide how that works, right? So we can give tech leads a certain official recognition, right? You are the lead of this task force, and these are your responsibilities. We can define them ourselves. So Vish, others who really want to step up to more leadership roles too, and don't necessarily want to be chair, I think there's a lot more opportunities to do that now than we had in the past, right? For example, Bala was our project manager, right? We kind of gave him the authority to do that. We can do similar things with other tech lead roles, right? So something to discuss, right?
Okay, then rather than going through the board, which I think is not always productive, I just ask one last call for anybody to raise any blockers that they have. And If they're none of those, then we will get 15 minutes back.
Yeah, I think this model is better of actually asking for blockers rather than.
Yeah. Joseph.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there any timeline planned for R2? Or is there a date?
Yeah.
December
So
15th. Yeah.
we want it basically by the end of the year, which means more or less by December 15th, we need it out the door. And that means we need to take it to the TSC for approval in mid-December. And then once the TSC approves it, there's still kind of like they put together their press releases, the LF and all that. So it won't actually go out as an announcement until January. That's the timeline we're looking at, but that means we should have at least, really, we should have everything buttoned up by December, by mid-December. That would be the goal.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
But backing it up, Bala, how far do you want to back that up for like a code release? Would it be like mid-November? What's that would be up to you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, ideally end of November. We'll see. Hopefully, yeah. That we are. I think we are in a position to do that if it is end of November. I think with that, this CRD is merged and the changes are also coming from free 5GC changes and thing. I think probably it's doable to do it by end of November.
Okay, cool. Okay. That help, Joseph?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 1 month.
Right.
Just
Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.